Is it possible to have peace without access to anything that you want? I don't know. I think it's a really great question. I love to foster a conversation this morning regarding it. But first, I want to welcome you to the Unraveled channel. My name is Toria Robinson. I am known as the Unraveling expert. I have a special ability to help awaken expectation. On this channel, you can look forward to us addressing common topics, common issues that have detrimental impacts. Today, we're going to be having a talk about how do you find peace in the wait, and that's W-A-I-T, wait. Now, before we address the overarching question, I want to go back to the one that we began the video with. Is it possible to have peace without access to everything you want, or even some of the things that you want? Now, it's important for you to understand that I'm speaking emotionally, things that you want, relationally, things that you want, physically, things that you want, economically, things that you want, and so on and so forth. Have you found it possible to obtain this amazing place of peace without access to those things? I'm going to share a very personal and current story with you that I believe is going to help really give us some points to discuss today. Now, in my journey, currently, I've been a mom since I was 16 years old. So if I know one thing, I know what it means to be a mom. I don't know that I prepared myself mentally for what life would be like when my kids have to make a decision and move on with their adult lives. Now, I think in points of frustration, I was like, I can't wait till they move out kind of thing. But when those days come that your kids are moving on, it's difficult. So my first child, Desmond, at 18, he joined the Army, and it was hard, but I was able to make that transition, and he has been successfully serving our country for a little over 4 years now. I'm good. I got my other 4 at home, right? Thinking I found my little place of peace as I wait for my baby grown man, to return home or return back to civilian living. I'm good. But my 18-year-old son, Michael, out of nowhere, decides very abruptly that he wants to join the armed forces, and I was just stumped. This is my child that I worried about the most. This was the child that I would say is my special boy, with not being condescending, but he's that one. If you're a parent or you have someone that you care deeply for, he would be that one that keeps you up at night. I always felt like he was going to be at his greatest advantage as long as I am within arm's reach to help him out with those hard things and even sometimes simple things. But he wants to make this big decision and move on and join the military, which would take him miles away from me, to say the least. So it was incredibly hard to find peace in that decision, and I'm just being honest. It was. I worried. I was like, oh my goodness. And if I be honest, I was hoping he wouldn't pass the things to make it in so I could keep him home. Because what am I going to do 90 days without being able to talk to my son, know how he's feeling? Is he okay? Are they treating him okay? I'm going to drive myself rampant. How will I have access to peace while waiting on word from a child that I've always had to care really deeply about? Back to my initial question. Is it possible to have peace without having access to all you want? In my case, what I want is my family to be together. I want all 5 of my kids to be, if not in my home, within driving distance where I have access and permission to see them as often as I desire. But that's not my current situation. I'll have now 2 children moving on to the military. So where do I grab peace from when I can't touch, I can't feel, I can't connect to what I thought was bringing me peace, which was the presence of my family? I really thought long and hard and spent some time in prayer regarding that. And I found some understanding in a scripture that I'd like to share with you, and I want to read it verbatim. It's found in Phillipians 4:11, verses 11 through 13, and I'm going to be reading from the NIV translation. And this is Paul speaking. I'm not saying this because I'm not in need, for I have learned to be content. That's a word I really want you to hang out with. Whatever the circumstances, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Christ Jesus who gives me strength. Wow. Maybe that's your first time hearing it, or it's a reminder. But that, when I begin to mull over the context of those scriptures, it began to really resonate with my present time. Paul says he's learned how to find contentment, peace, solitude in any circumstance that he finds himself in. The question is where do you learn that from? Ooh, right? Where do you learn what Paul learned? How do you get to that place when you're facing a situation or a complication in your life where you want peace, but you haven't learned yet the lessons that Paul is speaking about that brought him to this place where I'm good in any circumstance that I find? I believe how you learn it is choosing to learn it. Now, that may not sound like, oh my God, that's not super deep, Victoria, but think about it. Paul had to choose. If you're familiar with his life, if you aren't, I encourage you to kind of read through some things online about Paul, the Apostle Paul in the Bible. He had not this perfect school that he went to where they taught him contentment. No, he had this hectic life where one trial and one thing after the other, in those moments, he chose to learn. He wanted to learn in need. When he didn't have everything accessible, when things were hard and things were difficult, he wanted to learn contentment. When he had a lot, he never got satisfied. He wanted to learn contentment. He wanted to live in this place of contentment irregardless of what he had access to. So back to my question. Can you and I have access to peace, experience peace, without having the tangible touch of everything we want? My response in support of Philippians would have to be yes, if we choose to find contentment wherever we are. Oh, that's just cracking my mama heart, right? How could I be ever content? It seems selfish. It sounds selfish, in fact, to say I'm content without my kids being here. But it is for the betterment of our relationship that I find peace in the new path that my child and my children are on, as opposed to living frustrated and stressed out, because that may affect our relationship negatively. Key source in Philippians is this. As hard as my mama's heart is breaking, and whatever you may be facing where you feel that it is impossible for you to experience peace right in this second without X, Y, and Z being in place, the key anchor is that Paul wanted to experience contentment, and secondly is that he acknowledged that my secret to contentment is having confidence in my ability to face and find success in any situation through a strength that's greater than mine. And that strength comes only through Christ. Paul, in other words, surrendered any confidence in his abilities. And he began to recognize, whoa, if I just take my eyes off of what I can do and what I deem is possible through my human abilities, man, the sky's the limit. I can be in the absolute most ridiculously hard, tough, rough places, But I can do it because there's something far more stronger and greater working through me, and that's Christ's strength. How about that? Talking to myself today, guys. I can do this, and so can you. I can bless my children in their journey as they move on to their military careers and have complete peace because I can do all things through Christ Jesus who gives me strength, and so can you. There are a few principles that I want to leave you with to think about, and I hope that we can really build some deep conversations regarding this subject, because we're in a time of the year where peace feels impossible. The pressure of so many things. Maybe you have loved ones that have moved away, that are no longer here, that are sick, that are incarcerated, that are in a difficult circumstance, and you're like, oh my goodness, another Christmas or another New Year or what have you without them. Can I get some peace in this area? I pray from my heart that this conversation really causes you to begin to think on what you can do through Christ instead of what you can't do through yourself. So here are 3 principles, and I like to say for my followers on my channel, here's a key. I got 3 for you this time, so buckle up. First key will be this in terms of finding peace during a waiting period, waiting for something to happen or something to come about. Your wait does not have to become a wait. What do I mean by that? The period between where you're at and what you're believing to occur, that period doesn't have to become a waitee. It can be blissful, it can be an incredible experience, but that decision of what that journey is going to be like is up to you. Back to what Paul said. Paul said he learned how to be content. He made that decision to learn during tribulation, during lack, during plenty. He chose to take the position as a student to learn how to remain content and not put his confidence in things, but keep his confidence in the Lord. So that's the first principle. The second principle and key would be, and this is speaking from me, I've learned to sow well in the valley because my fruit depends on it. Some of you may not be familiar with what I mean when I say the valley. The valley would be comparable to like a dry, unproductive, unpleasant place in your life. In other words, a place where you don't want to be. I've learned, even when I find myself like in a situation where I'm at right now, I don't want to be with my kids thousands of miles away from me. I want my family nicely put together here in Florida. But I'm not there. It is what it is. So how will I support my future fruit that I want to see for my family? I'm going to sow well in an unpleasant time. What does that look like? I'm going to have joy. I'm going to love and find new ways to connect, keep my relationships strong with my children. I'm going to grow. I'm going to do all of these things because I know, guess what? This is just a season and it won't last. Won't that bring incredible peace in itself, guys? It's just a season, and what you're walking through is not forever. Last but not least, God gives us time to get to know him deeper. That makes you change how you look at time, right? I used to resent how long it took for me to get from A to Z. But as I've learned more, I recognize, man, it's to my advantage that I've walked through what I'm walking through, because, wow, I get to know the Lord in a way I had never known him before. God bless you, my friends. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comments below. What area in your life have you been troubled with finding peace? And how has this video caused you to think differently, or even give you encouragement and inspiration to reach out and get that peace and contentment through the Lord? I so dearly want to hear from you. I pray that you guys have an incredibly blessed week. I look forward to staying connected with you on my social media platforms, If you're not already following me, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Octoria. Also, I'd love it if you'd go ahead and grab a copy of the Unraveled series. Guys, if this has been blessing you, I'm telling you, I go so much deeper into topics just like this, and I provide tools and principles, thought-provoking questions to really help you get unraveled from anything, as common as it may seem. Get unraveled from it and live your greatest potential, because genuinely, that's why Christ came, guys. He came to give you and I freedom. And as long as I've got breath and the ability to speak, I'll be a champion for that. So God bless you, and I hope, again, you have an incredible rest of your week.